I'll preface this with, I grew up in enterprise. My first job was at Nortel Networks, which was the largest enterprise company in Canada for a time being. 30% of the Toronto Stock Exchange valuation was all tied up in Nortel at one point in time. Beyond that, I moved over to PeopleSoft and Oracle, and then I've spent 13 years at Microsoft. So I've been around enterprise for a long time, selling a bunch of products into enterprise myself. And the lessons that I've learned is enterprises are constantly being bombarded by IT vendors of every sorts and sizes, Saas vendors, on-prem vendors. But really they're in existence because if they're Johnson & Johnson, they're selling soap. If they're Ford, they're selling cars. If they're Disney, they're entertaining people. And so the best enterprise deals that I've seen go down are people that are actually helping enterprises see the value of what they've built as a way to help them in their core business. Not just, hey, go solve this problem or virtualize this or optimize that. Those days are long gone, I think. The other thing that's changed quite a bit since my days in selling to the enterprise is a lot of the decisions around IT were with the CIO. And those decisions are actually now being moved, regardless of whether the CIO is supportive or not. They're being moved to line of business managers. So the CMO, the chief security officer, the chief sales guy, the HR people, they're actually making LOB, line of business application decisions on their own departmentally, and they're putting down their credit cards and making those calls without the CIO's intent or even knowledge. We call that shadow IT. And so what Microsoft is doing to transform in this space is where we've traditionally had very strong relationships with the IT organizations of all of our enterprise customers. We're actually now hustling to build relationships with the line of business owners as well, because they're as influential in IT decisions as the CIO had once been over time. So my advice to startups is make sure you definitely have a path to a line of business lead in any enterprise you're selling into. Don't be mistaken, the enterprise sales cycle is a long sales cycle. The shortest I've seen it is 3 to 6 months. The average is 9 to 12 months, and I've been on deals that have lasted 3 years. Those are the big multi-million-dollar contracts. Those don't happen overnight, they take time. So be comfortable with that and make sure that your burn rate and your financial models allow you to be in existence for that long. But also make sure you're solving a problem that they need solved and parlay that to what they're doing as a core business. If you're just selling optimization, if you're just selling analysis and some other stuff, you'll get places, but you won't get as far. Big revolutions like virtualization with VMware were done such that it helped an IT department be agile, helped business owners, line of business owners be able to accomplish more because they were virtualizing rather than racking and stacking physical servers. Those are big transformation opportunities. And when you're thinking about what you're selling into, think about those in those lines as well. When I carried a sales bag in this world, the place that I tried to get to was that trusted advisor position, where whoever I was selling into, whoever the sponsor was of the deal, would call me up and say, hey, Jim, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? When you've gotten those calls, you're in. Because they're going to buy from you. They trust from you. So to answer your question, I think relationships really, really matter. There isn't any one metric that I would say is an indicator of success, except for when they're calling on you and asking you, what do I do in this scenario? Can you help me solve this problem? You're beyond a vendor relationship with that customer and into their actual business. And if you get there, you're writing checks all day long. And the best example of companies who have done that quite successfully are the service implementers. So the Accentures and the Bearing Points and the Capgeminis and the IBM Global Services, and the list goes on. The client executives who run the relationships with any one of these largest customers, and so, in fact, some of the ones that I've been friends with over the years at Oracle and PeopleSoft had been at accounts for 20 to 30 years. They were going to family events. They were being invited to strategy conversations. They were just in, right? And those relationships are what made the difference between what gets sold and what doesn't. And those relationships also very much influence the direction that a particular customer would go down from a technology perspective. So the number one thing that I have always tried to do, and we actually even do that in our core business today with startups, is to become that trusted advisor. It's a coveted place in a relationship where there is no vendor formalities. You're now in a place where someone's trusting you and they're looking for your advice and seeking it out. If you're there, that's probably the number one metric that you know you're going to have a good relationship with this customer longer term. And obviously that's built on trust, right? You don't just go there and then go sideways on a customer. It has to be intended to be a positive thing for both sides.